I must tell you, this is the first time we have such a meeting because FEPS has very clear statutes. We do have governing bodies, the General Assembly, the Bureau. We also meet regularly with national foundations. But this is such a special moment that we concluded this will be the reason to convene a very special meeting at the level of the foundation's leadership, presidents or in secretary generals or directors. And everybody understands why. We are indeed in a very special moment. So let me start with my own introduction. The starting point is we know that we are dealing with a new political landscape. And we see a new kind of right, hard right, far right, emerging in different places of our societies, in our continent, in other continents. We saw them coming, first of all, in the public space with strong positions. Then they start organizing full-fledged political parties. They start getting seats in the parliaments, then in the governments. More recently, they are leading governments. And more recently, they even were able to reach the government of the hegemonic country, meaning United States. And this brings a qualitative leap in the political landscape we need to deal with. We know they have different features, but they also have common features. They start by focusing on citizens' concerns, but then they bring populist solutions, many times overcoming rule of law in the way to turn them in something practical. And among the common features, they are anti-migration, anti-human rights, anti-rule of law, anti-international cooperation, and anti-European project. It's very striking just to remember a sentence coming yesterday from Trump's intervention in the cabinet meeting, when he said very bluntly that European Union was created to screw the United States. End of quoting. This was his sentence. Could not be more clear than this. And we see the Trump's agenda being unfolded. We are bombarded with shocking news each day. We see the peace in Europe being negotiated without involving Europeans and invaded country, as this is the case of Ukraine. We see a trade war being triggered, putting pressure on jobs and on living conditions. We see international cooperation being dismantled in many areas when it comes to climate, health, taxation, development aid. We see strong American digital platforms resisting to respect our European rules on digital life. And more recently, we saw top politicians coming from the American administration interfering directly in our democratic elections, and even in daring say they support far-right movements. This is just unacceptable. And we see more because we also see far-right international being organized in front of our eyes. Let me just refer a meeting last week in Washington, D.C., organized by CPAC, so the organization of so-called national conservatives, where someone like Elon Musk was a speaker, someone like J.D. Vance, so the American vice president, were also speaker. The president of Argentina, Milei, and also European leaders, including the deputy leader of the Front National in France, Bardella, who was about to speak, and then he gave up just because he saw that Mason, the former advisor to President Trump, used the Nazi gesture, and this was somehow a bit too much for him. These far-right international, we are analyzing this in detail. This is based in powerful political connections, financial means, and communication, media tools. So we need really to follow this carefully and to draw the implications from our side. Now, we can ask what should be the response from the European side, and particularly with a progressive ambition. Well, this is exactly the purpose of this meeting, but let me just give a first input for this, and then we open discussion. I believe there are some clear priorities. Number one is to come up with a European plan about the war in Ukraine, making European Union and Ukraine central actors of this negotiation. And I know this is extremely difficult because for the time being, this ceasefire is being shaped by Russia and the United States in the logic of just sharing areas of interest. It's very clear for us. Nevertheless, we believe that it's very important that Europe goes on supporting the military capacity in Ukraine. Europe builds up its own defense capacity, covering the different instruments, including organizing nuclear power from the European side. We believe this is crucial to start preparing Ukrainian reconstruction and the European Union membership of Ukraine. Priority number two, I believe, is about the tariff wars, just announced yesterday, as you saw. What is at stake is to prevent escalation. We know that Trump is using tariffs sometimes with other objectives. But Europe should also say clearly that if this is the way to go, we are prepared to respond, not only with tariffs, but with other instruments such as taxation, public procurement. So we have a quite large toolbox we can mobilize to deal with this. The number three is on the Green Deal, because Trump announced to phase out the Green Deal in the United States. On the contrary, we Europeans, we should keep our leadership in the green transition. And by coincidence, yesterday we had Teresa Ribera, Vice President of the European Commission, presenting, I believe, a great plan to go on with the green transition in Europe and using this to build a new competitive advantage for Europe. Number four, we believe that these new competitive advantages, they can help us Europeans to sustain our welfare system. So this is also a central priority for us. And then number five, on the digital transformation, we, European Union, have adopted important set of regulations. They should be enforced, but we should also make clear this is not enough. We need to work with the second leg, which is to build our own digital capacity, our own data ownership, our own platforms, chips, and artificial intelligence. We cannot be in the hands of the American digital platforms because this is a game changer for almost everything else. Then number six, we want to go on protecting the rule of law and democracy and our media ecosystem. And this is exactly part of the battle unfolding regarding our digital capacity. We need to have other digital tools also to protect our European public sphere and our media system as infrastructure of democracy. Number 7, this is about the multilateral system, because this is being challenged, undermined by the American administration. And this is in our DNA. We know that we need to reform, to update the multilateral system, but we need to make very clear that for us, global governance should be based on a multilateral system. And finally, number 8 is the need for Europe to launch a new set of bilateral agreements, partnerships with many other countries across the world, because we cannot be isolated. And in fact, we are expected to bridge with the others in a moment where the hegemon, United States, is withdrawing from a normal international cooperation to address global challenges. So the international role of Europe is more needed than ever, I believe. So all in all, I would argue that we should prepare a new phase of the European project with two central ideas. Is that one is this is the time for European Union to assert itself as a political entity, as a geopolitical entity, counting on crucial instruments to be a geopolitical entity. So the defense, the digital capacity, our economic toolbox, but also the concern with our social model and our democratic model. And the second idea for this new phase of the European project is, yes, we need to conduct enlargement. Enlargement now is a crucial geopolitical investment, but this should be conducted with a new approach by involving these candidate countries in our networks, even before they are full-fledged members of the European Union. So we need to involve them in our security networks, energy, digital, education, social, you name it. And finally, deepening. Well, this is a moment where Europe really needs to agree, decide and act much quicker in different fronts. And so this will be a big test on the way for us to deepening the European integration. And there are different ways foreseen in the EU treaties, something we can also discuss about. Now, I'm concluding by saying the following. With this as a background, I believe that our mood, all of us, we are shocked with this. All of us, we feel that we need to resist to this, but I'm also pretty sure that all of us, we want more, and we want really to organize a proper response and building up an alternative to this far-right agenda. They are quite powerful, but they also have many weak points. And we also have weak points. We have defeats, we have victories, but we remain, let me recall, in spite of these difficulties, the second most important political family in the European Union. And so we do have a particular responsibility. As you know, a Congress was announced to take place in autumn. The intention of this Congress is to prepare a programmatic renewal, updating, but also is to build up a larger coalition of forces. Some of these forces were close to us, then they became somehow distant. So we need to bring them closer to us and to bring new allies to us. And so I'm concluding by saying what should be the role of foundations, of think tanks, in all these initiatives to respond in an organized way? Well, I believe that foundations can play a very important role. First of all, when it comes ideas, so programmatic updating, because we are in front of a new political animal. This far right is different from the traditional right. So we need to come up with a convincing, appealing narrative to reply to them. This is the first role think tanks can play. There is a second one, which is our support to the policy making in all political institutions. We have many actors in European institutions, in national institutions, in local institutions. We have a very large network. And so we can support them in their action of providing political solutions. And finally, we have a third role, very important, which is about public debate. We need to see how we can make our ideas more visible, more appealing, and to reach out larger audiences. And so, all in all, this is the reasons we have invited you to come. And I will now open the floor for you to intervene. Let me remind that our first point is about assessing this far-right agenda, the Trump's agenda, and how to respond in a progressive way to this. Then we will connect with Washington, D.C. to listen to our American friends, Democrats. Then we have a break, coffee break. And then we'll come back to discuss for practical things. What can be the next steps? How can we work together to make our strengths really more impactful? And so this is the way we intend to conduct the. So thank you very much for your attention. I hope for those online, my voice was clear.